to be Kevin Hart, and like 75% of you said yeah, and I don't think you even know why. You're just like, yeah, that'd be cool.
Alright, so we're ready whenever you are.
So I have to just read this? What?
I mean, we're gonna ask you
the questions, so then you can just respond as...
Okay, do I need to,
You don't need to hold that.
Yeah, you don't have to, you don't want to.
Okay, well,
Alright.
if you're going to read the questions, then I'm going to... Should I scoot this up some? I think I'm kind of...
You're good right there.
Alright.
Alright, so... First question, so what is your name?
My name is Richard Lloyd Wesley Autumn.
And so just start by telling us a little about yourself. What are some of your hobbies, interests, anything interesting that our viewers should know?
Audio production, digital audio creation, poetry, art, the poetry in motion that is life, and experiencing nature and the breeze out here, like that sort of is playing an orchestra. Like there's a symphony right now of these leaves of the bamboo rushing against each other. I wish I had the stereo perception where I could really hear all of it. But because of the impact of my trauma on the right side, it even crushed the deepest parts of my inner ear, which is basically the brain, the malleus and stapes on the inner side of the ear canal. So that really hinders that's quite the barrier for audio production. And I'm blind on the left side of both eyes, which is one of those freaky-deaky brain injury things that just so happen to be on my record. So that doesn't really help my resume much, but apparently I did enough in the military to get some pretty decent healthcare benefits for life. So that's good news.
Being in the military, can you tell us a little bit about your military background?
It's kind of arched, but like sometimes I'd have to be really straight, so I could sag my back or get really straight.
So just tell us a little.
My background was my MOS was 92 whiskey, water purification specialist. I specialized in desalinating ocean water from the Virginia Beach Atlantic Ocean, rushing up against the Virginia Beach on the outskirts of Fort Story, Virginia, which is right on the Virginia Beach Strip. It's a really cool place to be. And 2007, God blessed me on my birthday with being able to kayak in this little buoyed off area of Fort Story with wild dolphins. Like, they were very real and very wild. It was awesome. I was like, man, people at SeaWorld pay big money for this kind of thing. Like, I'm out here getting paid to be there extra. Paid extra money by the military to be there doing saltwater training. Then I get to come up on seeing live dolphins. It's really awesome how they hunt. And I used to skateboard addictively. I was like addicted to skateboarding, running, digital audio creation. That was all me. Then traumatic brain injury hit. Bam, wake up call. I met God while I was in a coma for 17 days. Woke up from a coma not really knowing the difference between like so-called reality, what we see here, and like the spiritual world. Those kind of blended in together, and things were pretty strange for a while.
So what's your day-to-day life like? Like, what do you do outside of performing for the Veterans Open Mic Night?
I do veterans. I've become involved with the... Excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Hope I didn't blow up the lapel mic.
You're all good.
Thanks. I've become involved with some veterans theater arts programs. Art to Action over in Tampa with Saudi and Andrea. Then also Scott Cook's Polk Theater Works Florida in Davenport, like southern Davenport, almost Haines City. Cornelius and I have been performing with them for, what, Cornelius, a year at least? 2 years? Or was that a yeet?
No.
Yes, I said it yeet Yeet needs, like, everybody needs to know about
About a
Yeet.
year and a half.
Yeet is like no, but much more stern. Yeet!
Yeet.
I don't want nothing to do with that.
Okay, noted. So then,
just keep that in mind.
talking about your involvement in the performing arts community, how did you first hear about Arts to Action? Did they approach you, or did you just happen to stumble across them one day?
I can stumble like pretty easy. Like these cracks here in the pavers sometimes could get me tripped up. I've tripped over my own shadow. Didn't even know it was that raised. But yeah, my mother, who is my power of attorney and primary caregiver, who I'm living with now at 33, very manly thing. Like I'm just like it's difficult for me to just tell the women lined up at the door, just calm down. Maybe someday, but I don't know. So like it's like a level of stability that like women can depend on. Like his mom might make dinner, and like he's got Netflix. Like it's really cool. His Wi-Fi is strong, and I'm like, just chill. And it's difficult. But my mother checked her email a couple years ago, and I was asked if I wanted to go to a Veterans Arts and Crafts workshop at USF. And I was like, hell yeah. So Cornelius and I went, and they had us painting and trying to paint a piece of paper to describe our military history or background. And it was interesting because Cornelius is civilian as a civilian can get. I was like, what do I can't paint a military background, so I'm not sure what he did, but he was a part of it. And ever since then, we were involved with this Art to Action group with Andrea Asaf and Saudi Murphy and Dora Ariola. And we've been involved with them for a while now, about 2 years. And they invited us to go to the bunker where we met you three wonderful people. And wow, don't blush. It's okay. It's just being me and honesty. We got this thing.
So what inspired you to start performing? Because I know when we went, you were doing your stand-up routine. Was there somebody in particular that inspired you to start getting up and doing your stand-up routine, or was it just something you kind of did one day, like woke up one day and was like, hey, I'm going to do this?
I started doing stand-up at a place in Winter Haven called Jesse's Lounge. It was a very sought-after bar by quite some alcoholics. Very smoky. So I was like, I'm about to get raw in the stand-up comedy world. Because I was like, all the professionals, like the really good ones, they started out in like scuzzy kind of smoky places. I was like, this is it. This is my starting. So I was going to an open mic there on Tuesdays, and there'd be bands playing, and I was like, well, it's not the best. It's definitely not the worst. It's like nobody was trying to make me smoke. There were just a lot of people smoking. I was like, I need to get a mask or something. But then I got upgraded to doing whatever I wanted to do behind the open mic at the bunker. And I was like, yeah, I'm really turning it up. That was really a stepped up moment. I was like, okay, I really stepped my game up from smoky Jesse's Lounge to a non-alcoholic smoke-free bunker, which is, it really feels a lot better. And Andrea and Saudi invited me to that bunker event because Cornelius and I went to the Arts and Crafts, Veterans Arts and Crafts thing at USF years ago. So we went. I was like, wow, they have just a list you can sign up for? And Andrea was like, you want to get on the list? I was like, I don't know. I'll think about it. So then I just kind of observed. I was like, I don't know. like, you kind of have to be good. And I was like, I don't know if I'm that good. Like I'm funny. People are like, oh, you should do stand-up. You're funny. Ha, ha, ha. I'm like, you're just saying that. That's like protocol for you. You work at a register. You know how to deal with people. You get them out of your register quick. Then I was like, I'm tired of just being referred to like, oh, you're funny. You should do stand-up. Like, you should come to my show. That's my new reply. And they're like, oh, yeah, you do? Like, yeah. It's been like that.
So what do you do to prepare every month? Do you have material ready to go, or do you just kind of make it up on the spot as you go?
It's a hybrid between both. It's like I used to make my favorite drink, Doug Passion, with Hennessy and Alizé. Now that correlates, let me finish, because it's a drink I call Beaufort. I take both of them, put them together to create Beaufort. So yeah, I go there and I get inspired by something that somebody else says that's on the list before my name gets called or whatever. And I think that I've got a reputation, like, jokes are my thing. So Andrea's reading the list, or whoever the facilitator is, whoever's the host, whether it's Real or Shay or Saudi or somebody filling in for somebody else, they kind of know. They're like, okay, that guy's not going to do a poem. That guy's probably going to make people laugh. And sometimes my jokes might be inspired by something that happened earlier I have to clown about, because the roosters walking around Ybor, it's kind of obvious when you're walking around, you're like, are those chickens? Yeah, the police did that. So we know who we can trust in this neighborhood. Stick with the roosters.
Have you done any other performances besides stand-up?
Yes. The Chrysalis was a play I was involved in with the Art to Action group. That was really awesome. And then the Vet Voices that Cornelius and I have been involved in for a couple 10-week courses for probably a year and a half. We've done 2 productions with them so far. And we've, again, packed small to medium-sized rooms. You calm down. I thought I told you to wait in the car.
If you ain't from my hood, get from around here.
Yes, Project Pat is correct in a lot of what he says, but I'm not saying it's right. But pragmatically, sometimes that needs to be said.
And where does your creative inspiration come from?
Ironically, the right side of your brain is the part that is the creative side. But somehow, I think through the Spirit of God that resurrected me from a 17-day coma, inspires whatever neurons are firing to still be creative. Because that used to be my outlet. It was like making music that correlated to how I felt during the workday. And then not knowing how to get that sort of expose the feelings in my head, or expose the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that were built up in my head through a day of work. I used to push out those thoughts and emotions and feelings through the computer, invisibly into the computer, into something visible on a program I could see, and then reverberating them out of the speakers invisibly back into my mind to make sure that's actually what I was feeling. And then not knowing how I was going to do that now, being deaf in the right ear, I was like, let me do some art. I started doing yoga, meditation, art. I still do music a little bit. I'm not as prolific as I thought I used to be. That happens. I'm aging. Like, I'm 33 now. That's like close to 34. But it's the same distance from 34 as it is to 32. So just remember that next time you have a birthday, it's like, you're just a year older. Like, still, it's something. So really think about that next time you're thinking about choosing a cake. It's really, like, cake is like a cake. I thought about opening a racist bakery called KK Cakes. It's not a good idea. I'm not going to do that. I'm not. What? Don't make me have to be guilty already. I'm not doing it. I called it off. Yeah, I wrote the business model. It was pretty sweet. Like fiscally, it could work, but it's just too socially inappropriate. Which might be the name of my Netflix stand-up special.
Your Netflix special.
Yeah, it's not out yet.
It's in the works.
Yeah, I'm practicing.
Oh, yes.
And my mixtape and or my album drop and my TED Talk are on my TEDx, and my album drop are on the way as well. So keep that in mind.
And this might be a little bit of a difficult question, so you don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
Okay.
How has your stand-up helped you cope with the large scale of your injury? Because I know you said the whole right hemisphere of your brain.
Yeah, I don't know if you can zoom in on the scar or something, but
Yeah. So how is stand-up and arts, how has that helped you cope through the pain of your injury?
well, I've always been an extroverted person, but there was something, a barrier, a blockage, there was a stoppage that was like creatively constipated. Like there was a blockage between me and getting back into a busy room and really working the room, you know, because I'm walking around with a cane and like people didn't get it, like why I was spilling change, and like I can't add that well. So it's been a bit of a struggle to try to get back to who I believe I am and go beyond the boundaries of my circumstances that doctors and therapists write up on their notes to get paid. So I feel like I'm always being hustled by the healthcare industry.
And you talk a lot about your relationship to God. Does that also help inspire your work?
Yeah. I sat in my room one night a couple years ago, and I had this really elaborate picture of Jesus on the cross. The whole picture of Jesus on the cross looked like his face, and like his legs on the cross was his beard in the face, and it had other crosses and other like angels and stuff. It was really cool. It was also a little creepy, but it was pretty cool. And I was really, really stoned. What? I'm serious. I was actually definitely higher than I needed to be, but like, I was like, this is good. It wasn't like the high where you're in a plane crash. It was like the kind of high that's like, swoosh, and a plane lands nicely. Oh yeah, this is good. It's all right. Mm-hmm. Or like when somebody serves a nice entree to you, like, oh, this is the kind of steak I ordered. Right on. But I was asking God, I was like, so Jesus, you're fully man. It's like very fleshy human body, but you're also fully God. So what was that like when you're like walking on water and shit? Were you like, whoa, this is unstable. Oh my. I bet I'm be the last one doing this. I bet nobody else will do this. Then he called Peter out the boat, and Peter was like, all right, I guess so. Then he fell in the water, had to get help. So I was just clowning with Jesus, this picture of Jesus, which it says, second commandment, I think, is not supposed to have any graven images. So I got rid of that picture. But that was a lot of fun. I was like really stoned. I was like, yeah, I'm trying to get with the Most High. This is fun. So yeah. It's not federally legal. Legalize it. Can please? Please?
And we're gonna.
Is this going federal?
No, it won't. We're gonna end it on that note.
Okay. Well,
right,
I apologize.
Look into the camera, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Camera. All right. So if you could just start by telling us, basically, I know Rich mentioned that you're not a veteran, but what's your relationship to the veteran community, and are you like an avid supporter of them?
As far as that question goes, I'm a supporter of just about anybody who's willing to do better for themselves. It just so happens that Richard is the person that I work with, but I do a lot of like work within the community as far as going into the schools, mentoring, tutoring, just volunteering. Any type of help that they need, I give.
All right. And talking about you and Richard and your relationship, can you just give us like, you know, the background, how you guys met, like where you've like gone from there, like how did it all start?
Well, I used to go to Polk State College here in Winter Haven, and even then I was doing a lot of mentoring, specifically Snively Elementary, Don Woods and Denison. One day the dean of Polk reached out to my supervisor and requested for somebody to work with Richard. Somebody had reached out to her, so she reached out to him, and he recommended me. A couple days later, my boss gave me a phone call and asked me to do an interview, and I came by here, and they asked me a couple questions, and we were on the same accord, and here I am today.
So, what would you say that, how have your and Richard's friendship grown over the years? Because obviously you didn't, like, immediately, like, you weren't friends first, you kind of, like, how did it, like, become a friendship more than just, like, you know, caretaker?
What's interesting is that we have the same belief system, and that really helped. And number two, he's a lover of music, and so am I. Before his injury, he used to be a producer. His name was DJ Automatic, and he used to create a lot of music for rappers to do their work on. So me, I love to rap. That's one of my greater strengths. So we just connect in those two areas, and we've been friends and working partners ever since.
I know you mentioned you like to rap, so you're a performer, Richard's a performer. Were you both already performers, or did like one of you push the other to becoming a performer, or did it just kind of like click at the same time for both of you guys?
It pretty much clicked at the same time. I wasn't really putting myself out there like that. I was more reserved, but working with him opened up different opportunities for me to spit my truths on the mic, and we just been going to every open mic that we can as far as veterans open mics, and we're going to continue to do so.
Just like one last question. You've probably been to a lot of these veterans open mic. What do you think that does for the community? How does it help people?
I believe that music is an extremely important outlet for people to express themselves. A lot of these veterans, they have PTSD, and they just go through so many different traumatic situations, and I believe that these open mics offer them an outlet to express themselves and just take their mind off the struggle that they go through on a day-to-day basis.
Now, talking specifically about Richard, how have you seen like his performances, like this open mic or any other stand-up performances, like help him? Like, have you seen him grown? Have you seen him change?
Most definitely. When I first met him, he was already a confident person, but through going to these open mics, it built his confidence. It made I would say, love himself more, love aspects of himself that maybe he didn't as much before. I also believe that because he's been going to these mics, it's helped him memorize stuff more than before, because as you guys know, he lost half of his brain, so his memory is a little bit shaky. But by doing these performances, it forces him to remember certain cues and lines when he does his stand-up comedy, and it's really helped him a lot.
I think that's all we really got for you.
Okay.
No, awesome. Thank you so much.
You want to do a little bit of them together?
So why don't you start by stating your name and how you know Richard?
My name is Trevor Mandarino. I met Richard a couple years ago through mentoring with him and Cornelius, but I really started working with him about 6 or 8 months ago. I used to be a bartender, and I was looking to get out of the business, try to focus on school a little bit more, other things outside of that. And basically, a week after I made up my mind that I was going to get out of the industry, Cornelius actually called me and told me that I could potentially get a job with him, and I took it. I went to an interview, and now I'm here working with Richard.
So now what are your I guess, what are your duties? Like, what do you do?
So our main job is to just make sure that Richard doesn't fall or hurt himself. But also, Cornelius and I try to take it a little bit more than that, and we try to give him the best quality of life possible. So day-to-day things we do, we'll go out, we'll go to the park, we'll go for walks. We like to go eat at different places. We'll like take his grandma out to eat. We'll go to church with him and stuff like that.
And what have you learned, both maybe just about Richard yourself? And
That's a good
about
question.
Life in general. What are some things you, like, reflecting back, what have you learned?
That's a good question. So today in life, everyone's rushing. It seems like we're always rushing to work, we're like rushing relationships, or rushing to eat. But Richard takes things slow, not only because he has to, but because he also chooses to. And so for me, I've noticed that I've slowed down a lot in my life outside of here. Like, for example, I'll be walking with Richard, and I can't walk at a normal pace I would normally be walking at. I have to kind of keep up with him. And so that's been something I've noticed that's changed and that I've learned.
That's awesome. Anything else that you want our viewers or just people in general to know or to take away from this documentary?
I just want to thank you guys, for giving us the opportunity to kind of show you what it's like, day-to-day life with a brain injury. It's a very misrepresented thing, and I don't know if we can even represent it to its full extent, but yeah, it's just a completely miss and underrepresented thing, I think. So it's nice that we get to shed a little bit of light on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Y'all's returning.